Hi, welcome back to Social Anxiety Life, the podcast. We are on episode 5, and today is the episode where we're going to get to know Simon. So I'm going to be asking him lots of questions. Are you ready?
Oh dear, I think it's good to have an episode where we talk more in detail about our own experiences, but it's quite nerve-wracking because you never know where it's going to go. But yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so my first question, we'll start off easy. When did you first realise that you had social anxiety?
I suppose that it's always been there, but putting a label to it or a more sort of thorough, detailed description of it probably didn't happen until my 40s, really.
Yeah. Oh, so quite late on then.
Yeah, it was definitely there. And I look back to, particularly when I was at school, I was very sort of quiet, very sort of reticent to contribute, to class discussions. I didn't have many friends, close friends at school. I had a few friends at school, but I just remember, particularly in terms of school, like when it came to sort of teaching and being in the classroom as a child, I just sort of, there was my areas that I got on with really well. But even then I preferred to work by myself.
Yeah.
I didn't really like that whole class discussion part. And that dread when you get, the teachers asked a question and it's specifically targeted to you and they say your name, it's like, no, I've got to think. But actually, I knew what to say.
Yeah.
And it ended up being fine.
Yeah.
I also think when it comes to you're being asked to work with someone and then you're having to present your findings to the class, you have to literally stand up, go to the front, then you're going to have to say what you've got to say.
Yeah.
There's all those sort of presentation skills.
Public speaking.
And I remember one thing in particular where we call it upper school rather than secondary school, where I remember in an English lesson I'd worked with someone on a presentation linked to the book that we're doing, and we had to stand up and say something about it. And actually at the end, it was only a couple of minutes, but some people, they clapped afterwards because they must have known. I think they must have known in a way. But then I just thought I was just shy, quiet, reserved. I just thought that's what it was.
Yeah.
But I think as I've got older, I've learned to now recognise that's what it is, social anxiety.
Yeah.
Because it didn't just happen. It doesn't just happen in that context. It's happened in quite a lot of other contexts as well.
Yeah. Good answer. I liked that. Right. Question 2. Have you ever sought any kind of professional help for your anxiety? Or have you generally tried to, manage it yourself?
Yeah, I have sought professional help with anxiety, and I linked my anxiety to mental health. And I've had a couple of periods within the last year where it's been quite pronounced, my mental health, and it is linked to anxiety. About a couple of years ago, I went to a particular place of work, and I remember having the interview. The interview went really well, and I secured the job.
Yeah.
But when it sort of started, something wasn't right, something didn't feel right, which created a feeling of anxiety. And I suppose it isn't exclusively social anxiety then, it's anxiety about other things as well. It was more linked to the age of children that I was being asked to teach. It wasn't made that clear at the time. But I just felt at the time I just couldn't do it, which led me to take some time off. And in that time off, I did speak to a counsellor about it, really, really good counsellor. I remember doing quite a lot of research, first of all, to find the right one, but speaking to someone who maybe doesn't know you as well as other people, they have more sort of expert understanding of what to say to you, what questions to ask you. And she ended up being very, very good at processing what I was saying to her and then inflecting back, try this. So a lot of the strategies I do put in place now are actually things that she said.
Oh, brilliant.
And now and again, I haven't spoken to her now for over a year, coming up to a year now. But there was a period where once in a while I thought, yeah, I just need to have a word. I just need to sort of talk things through. And she was very good where I'd message her saying in the morning, she gets back to me by the end of the day with an appointment for that week. And it was all online as well, which was really good. Very, very helpful.
So would you suggest seeing a counsellor for other people maybe who are struggling with their anxiety? Do you think it's something that's worth trying?
I mean, I've also gone down the route of medication as well, but it didn't really help what I was prescribed.
Yeah.
And then actually after speaking to the counsellor, she said it may not have been the right sort of course of action to take having medication. I think if you've got really good friends who get it, who really understand what it is, I think they're good to talk to.
Yeah.
But as I said earlier, I think speaking to a counsellor or a professional or someone whose field of expertise is to understand your anxiety and how it manifests itself is beneficial. However, I know I went privately for my counsellor.
Yeah.
And it was good value because I think you can't put price on your mental health.
Absolutely.
I mean, I was offered, my GP offered counselling through the local authority called Talking Therapies, but because I had good experiences with my previous counsellor, I went for that route. It has really helped me in a lot of stuff, as I said earlier. A lot of the stuff that she talked to me about, I still do now, and they help.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, I might know the answer to this question. Have you ever avoided social situations because of your anxiety?
Yeah, I've avoided plenty of them. It's a tricky one because in the past I probably went to them because I felt that I had to go to them, and felt at that time if I didn't go to them, people would have a low opinion of me and what I was doing. When actually now I feel more confident to say, well, actually I don't want to go.
Yeah. And
if the person's understanding and knows about it, the social anxiety, they won't have a problem with it.
Yeah.
But I have not gone to things. I have made an excuse for not going. So I know that I'm just thinking like, someone's asked me to go for drinks for maybe one of the schools I've worked at, and sometimes I've said, oh, I can't go, I've got something else on, which in a sort of essence, that sort of stops the issue.
Yeah.
But then I'm always thinking, oh, maybe I should have gone, maybe I should just push myself to go. But at that time I just felt, no, didn't want to.
Yeah.
I didn't want to go. It's not like I don't like the people or the person. I like the person, I like the group. It's just going to wherever it is, and what we've talked about in previous situations, we've talked about the sort of, if you agree to go to something, all the build up beforehand, when you get there, what's going to happen, what's the setup of the room, what's the social makeup, what are people doing. Yeah. And sometimes for me it's always been like, well, just don't go, because that's going to instantly relieve the anxiety.
Yeah. Do you think there's a balance to be had there? Do you think it's okay to always say no to going to things if they give you anxiety, or do you think sometimes you should try to go to them?
That's a tricky one, because I have tried to go. I've tried to go, I've gone, and I've not gone.
Yeah.
Increasingly now, I'm more confident to say no.
Yes.
And I know to say now, I feel anxious about it, this is what happens. When I back it up with what actually happens within that process, it's better. But increasingly now also, I think people get it a bit more. There are people who understand it a lot. And there are probably, I can count like 5 particular people who understand it a lot.
Yeah.
And if they invite me to a particular social event, and they know that there's going to be lots of people there that I don't know, they will suggest strategies that I've maybe talked about before, such as maybe you want to think about bringing somebody else that you know, so then there's that support there.
Yeah.
Because the person that's invited you to it, they want you to be there because they love you and they like you and they want you to be there and take part in the thing. They just want you there. So I think increasingly now there's people there who get it and they understand and they put the strategies in place, which does put me at ease. It doesn't eliminate the build up to it or the anxiety, the overthinking, what happens when you get there. I can think back to something, this is quite a few years ago now. I went to a house party and lots of people that I knew were going to be there. So I thought, oh no, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna give it a go. So my friend said to me, right, I'm gonna meet you at the train station. Me and my partner are gonna meet you at the train station. We're gonna go. So we went, and it was okay for a couple of hours. Like I got there, had a drink. I stuck with my friend quite a lot. I didn't branch out very much at all because I just sort of figured out I just didn't feel comfortable. But I gave it a go, and after a couple of hours, I said to my friend, I said, I need to go now. I said, I've been, I've done it, I've tried it, I want to go now.
Yeah.
And luckily she said, right, we'll go somewhere else. Mm-hmm. That's the difference.
Yeah.
Some people will go with you, they'll continue that support beyond the point where you've had enough, your body's saying, no, something's not right. But then sometimes the support will want to stay there a bit longer.
Yeah.
And that's fine, because you don't want to stop them from having their enjoyment of the event. Yeah. But at the same time, you just have to think, well, what's best for you?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what you said, if you have friends who are understanding of it, then that's a good thing. Right. Do you think there's a stigma attached to social anxiety?
I think there is. I think the stigma with anxiety, social anxiety, is that I think it's mislabeled. I think people have come up with those terms like shy, quiet, reserved, introverted. All of those terms, for me, it's being socially anxious. Yeah. So, like, if you're shy or quiet, it's just assuming you don't say anything, or you don't speak, or you're a selective mute, maybe, or elective mute, or whatever. I've been labelled those things, and I do think in the past people have just assumed that if you're shy or quiet or reserved, I've experienced in the past that people probably don't think you're good enough. Yeah. When actually, I've learned now there's many different ways that people express themselves, whether it's through, you can express yourself very eloquently through non-verbal means. I think in our job, we teach children who have alternative ways of expressing themselves, whether it's through like pointing, tapping you on the arm, gesticulating, all of that business as well. I just think there's been definitely more movement to see it more. I just don't think it is acknowledged as much as it probably should be. Yeah. I've experienced it in the past. I think sort of marrying up that sort of quiet sort of reserved type of label. I mean, if I compare it with like another sort of stigma about, and you know, like sexuality, for example, like those sort of things. Yeah. When those two things have been put together, it just doesn't make you feel very good. Yeah, of course. At all. It makes you feel, it does make you feel you're not good enough. Yeah. I think it's less so now because I feel more confident to talk about it, but I think there's still progress to be made there. Yeah. Okay. And then my final question, it's quite a big one, but what would your advice be for someone who is really struggling with social anxiety? I think probably what's a good perspective to have here is, I think it's almost, I'm thinking back to my younger self. What advice would I give to my younger self? Because I know more now than I did. Yeah. Than I did then. And I just look at myself as when I was sort of like 13, 14, 15 years old, and where I was, particularly at school, where you'd go to school, there's all that sort of hidden, I call it the hidden curriculum. Mm-hmm. Like you experience English, maths, science, history, geography, all of that stuff. But sort of underpinning that is like socialisation, how you get on with people, forming those relationships. And even then, I know I preferred working by myself, doing things, seeing things to completion by myself. I suppose I should think. I think now I would tell my younger self, like, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's okay to be like that, and there's no problem with it.
Yeah.
And it's almost like, I don't want to say not caring what other people think, but it's almost not placing the value on that too much, because actually some people don't fully understand it. So it's almost having the confidence to say to people, well, actually, I'm anxious because of this, this and this. It shows through this, this and this.
Yeah.
And the ways I cope are like this, this and this. So I just think now that the things I have in place now for my social anxiety, such as when I feel it getting too much, I go for a walk. I go for a walk in the park. I go for a walk in the any sort of green space. I feel the benefits of nature.
Yeah.
And being in the park is a huge relief. It's almost when I go there, everything lifts. And my counsellor actually said to me, she sent me some research to back all that up. So she said things like on leaves and plants, you know, like on a leaf, you get a line down the middle and all those little bits going off the side. They're called fractal patterns.
Yeah.
And fractal patterns are apparently proven to relieve stress and anxiety for spending time in there. Things like gardening. If you're gardening and you're like potting plants, you're repotting them. Apparently there's a theory that when you're sort of moving the soil gives off a certain good feeling bacteria that makes you feel good as well. The other thing I do quite often now is I have like a little fiddle toy, sensory toy that helps me. So sometimes when I'm feeling anxious, I just hold one of them, and I'm careful to make sure that it's one that doesn't make lots of noise. So things I was talking about, my marble mover, I have a little stretchy thing that I use as well. And sometimes even texting people, because if it happens during the day and I'm not working, for example, I feel that I don't want to disturb them, which is a strange thing, because actually I'm worried about phoning them as well.
Yeah.
But usually if I leave them a voice note or text, usually they'll send something back saying, this is what you should do. Yeah. Thanks for telling me. But I suppose in a nutshell, it's no. I wish I'd had those secure strategies then. Yeah. That I do now.
But I suppose that's come with time.
I think it has. I think it's really come along with experience and sort of, one of the things about this podcast is knowing now that other people have it too. Yeah. More people than I thought.
Yeah, because you've been saying, I think we both have had a lot of messages, haven't we, from people saying that they can really relate to a lot of the things we're saying.
Yeah, I'm quite taken aback with people who I've assumed in the past project this feeling of confidence. Yeah. They deal with things really well. They project themselves extremely well. And actually, some of those people have said, well, actually, if you look behind that, there's a lot of anxiety there, and they've said the phrase they've learned to mask it really well. But yeah, I think it's interesting, but I think there's still stuff to do. I think. Yeah. And it's almost, I'd be quite interested to hear if anyone relates to these experiences that we're talking about.
Brilliant. Oh, that was an excellent episode. Thanks, Simon, for opening up and talking about your anxiety.
Yeah, I think it sounds like almost form of therapy, because stuff like this I don't talk about in detail. No. Probably a lot of people listening to this wouldn't know the depths of how it happens and how it affects me. But I know that episode 6... we're going to turn the tables here.
Oh no.
And we're going to do an in-depth look at your experiences, and maybe there may be some similarities there may be some differences there may be common themes through that. Yeah. And I'll just be interested to hear what you've got to say, and what's your journey
Yeah.
has been along the social anxiety route.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks for listening to episode 5.
Thank you.
Join us for episode 6 soon.
Bye.